Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starsik. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew. I'm a grateful recovering addict. Welcome to the 204th episode. I said that 204th episode of the Freedom Rising Recovery Podcast. Again, my name is Andrew Normand. If you don't see Milan right here today, it's because he's under the weather, and we love him very much. We want to do one in his honor. We love him very much, and we hope he feels better. So this is his ode to getting better. We have with us today my trusty sidekick, and man, I love you so much, JJ from West Virginia. And then we have Miss Brenda, who's very, very special to me. And she's going to get ready to introduce herself here. So as we get this thing rolling in, go ahead and introduce yourself, Brenda, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Love you. Glad you're here.
Hi, family. This is stuff we can do last names and stuff. Hi. I'm Brenda B, which stands for Ballinger. And I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery 48 years. Came in at 29 and still here a day at a time, thank God. And I'm just living life on its terms, happy, joyous, and free. Trust me, happy, joyous, and free, because I did in doing the work. So I'm happy, joyous, and free today. And I'm just so glad that Andrew invited me here. This is my first time on a podcast. So, hey, you'll see the kinks.
I love you so much, Brenda. You're so amazing. You're so amazing. So, yes, and everybody who's listening, she said 48 years. This woman has been clean 48 years. So we'll roll into that more into the topic. But what we ask all of our first-time guests, Miss Brenda, is what sparked that recovery fever in you? Like, when did the point go from, like, I have to be here to I get to be here? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, when the first 90 days, I was in total denial. On the 91st day, I got clean in Brooklyn. On the 91st day, when we got 90 days, they let us start, telling some of our story. So on the 91st day, I shared some of my story. And afterwards, the spiritual awakening, the spiritual feeling, the love and all that stuff that I felt after sharing with people coming up to me, that at that point, I surrendered. Because I loved the feeling and I was okay with talking about myself because everybody else was doing it. At that point, I surrendered, and my recovery began. I got the sponsor and everything, and my recovery began. And at that point, I wanted to come. The first 90 days, I was going because I had to. I was in this rehab and we had to make meetings. It was mandatory, 7 days a week. But after that 91st day, I wanted to come. That's how that was for me.
That's so beautiful. That's exactly what we're looking for too, Brenda. I'm like sitting here, my whole body's tingling when you're telling that story. That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. So the topic that you chose for today was acceptance and humility, two of my favorite spiritual principles in the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have JJ introduce the topic, and then we're going to kind of make it around. We'll do a general on those two things, and then we'll roll into the questions. Okay, JJ, what does humility and acceptance mean to you, big dog? Love you. Glad you're here, bro.
Oh man, I'm glad to be here, and I'm JJ, and I'm an addict. I'm so grateful for the program. Introduced to the concept of acceptance in the predecessor fellowship. There was no NA in my area, but 12-step recovery is what saved my life. And Here's a piece on acceptance that's out of the literature. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life unacceptable to me. And I can find no serenity until I accept that person, place, thing, or situation as being exactly the way it is supposed to be at this moment. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Until I could accept my disease, I could not stay clean and sober unless I accept life completely on life's terms. I cannot be happy. I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in the world as on what needs to be changed in me and my attitudes. Couple lines further down, I love this part. And acceptance have taught me that there is a bit of good in the worst of us and a bit of bad in the best of us, that we are all children of God and we each have a right to be here. So, that's some beautiful education. I mean, I didn't know anything when I got here, but what I knew got me as far as it got me. And it was, I had alienated myself from my own children and my wife. I had left them, and picked up with a sassy wench and went on my merry way because that's what selfish addicts do, chasing what I thought was a good life, and unable to accept life on life's terms. Listen, the literature, I was told early, read the literature, not the people, and I know that if I've learned anything, it's because I paid attention, and I'm so grateful. Uh, got a beautiful friend. I'm not a stepologist, right? But I incorporate these steps in my life. And the our very first problem is to accept. This is from another meditation, and was from Bill W. He did a lot of writing. Our first problem is to accept our present circumstances as they are, ourselves as we are, and the people about us as they are. And check this out. This is to adopt a realistic humility without which no genuine advance can even begin. Again and again, we shall need to return to that unflattering point of departure. This is an exercise in acceptance that we can profitably practice every day of our lives. And, my experience is, and that's the beauty of our program, this 12-step cycle, it's not something to be done once. It was a long timer in my early recovery told me, he said, Jimmy, one day you will realize that you are taking all 12 steps in the same day. And, I love that reality because the way life is, accepting it on life's terms, I run into the inability to accept something, or I feel like I'm at the same spot again. And that's what the reading to me says, that we will return to that unflattering point of departure. It's like, here I am again, and I love our program, and I love that I'm clean. God gave me a brain and I can use it today. So when I've been to those places, and they describe it, that unflattering point of departure, where I feel confused, humiliated. I feel like I'm at the same place, different parts of my recovery. I go, wow, I'm here again. Have I not learned anything? Honesty popped in my head. I was at one of those points of being really frustrated at thinking that I'm at the same place again, right? Stuck. And what I realized because, well, today is whatever it is, November 27th, right? It might feel similar, but it's not the same place. Like there's been some growth. There's been some, there's been some change. It feels the same. My addict self would say, you're at the same place. But that's not true. That's not true. And somewhere I think it's my humility because that's what keeps me right sized. I'm not too great and I'm not too little, allows me to accept the fact that, no, I'm just at maybe, a humbling point of departure where I just have to start again, admit the truth, and exercise our spiritual principles of accept. They're two seriously cool tools. It used to be a bottle and a bag of dope that I would have to answer the problems of life. And now it's these spiritual principles, two of which Brenda picked for us to discuss and open up. And, this is dope I like to do because it is everlasting. I love you guys. Brenda, I'm so glad to be with you on a meeting like this. It's a little different. And I'm still trying to get comfortable, so don't feel like the lone stranger because but it all works. God's got us, so we just need to surrender and let him take us where he wants us to go. So I love you. Thanks, Andrew.
So I love you. I love you so much, JJ. Real quick, your audio is getting real bad, like choppy, coming in and out, in and out. I don't know if there's a better way when Brenda's answering her question or talking about the topic. If you can move to a better place or kind of maybe get that figured out, because you would come in and out. I could hear everything you said, but I just don't want that to happen the whole time. If you can try to figure that out, I love you so much. All right, Miss Brenda. So why can you tell us today why you chose these two beautiful, beautiful topics, acceptance and humility, to talk about today?
Yes, because they are the main ingredients for me staying clean, living life on its term, getting to the point, growing to the point where I'm happy, joyous, and free. They are the two of the three main ingredients for me. Of course, the willingness, right? But we're not talking about that. Now, the humility for me, I have to be humble in order to get any kind of acceptance. And I say that because I was in 100% denial. Of course, all the time that I was out there, but I was still in 100% denial when I got here, for 90 days, denial. And guess what? When I got the humility to be open-minded and to surrender, I was able to get to the acceptance that I was an addict, that I am an addict. Had I not humbled myself, I would still be in denial because, I was the great I am. So I had to get out of myself by becoming humble to get to the acceptance, and I can identify with JJ, because when I came around in Brooklyn in 77, there was no NA, and we did what we had to do, and I say this for the acceptance. When I was coming, when I was new, I was feeling all of this stuff. But number one, I was saying, I'm not going to, tell people about myself. I'm not going to tell my business to y'all. And my sponsor said to me, Brenda, once you identify yourself as an addict, we already know about you. So you might as well talk about yourself and your feelings and and stuff, because we already know you, and all of these little things, all of these little cliches, all of these jewels that was put on me to sound absolutely crazy at first, but then humbling myself and becoming open-minded and all the rest of the stuff, I was able to accept what was going on, what was being said, and getting into the program, I was able to, the acceptance came much easier. But at the same time, without me practicing humility, I could not ever get to the acceptance. The humility was first for me. I had to humble myself. Yeah, chick, you ain't it. You got a problem, and accepting that has kept me from going. As a matter of fact, like we talk about, if you're not humble, you'll be humiliated. Well, there was a time in my recovery 26 years ago when I was not humble and I was humiliated. Okay. I was like 20 something, 22, 3 years in recovery. And that was 26 years ago. And I went to jail for 8 hours. Now, how? Now, I was humiliated, because I was not humble. Humility had went out the window and the feelings took over. I acted out on the feelings, but, and then even with that situation, of course I was going to, I was beating myself up, what kind of mom are you, blah, 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 and stuff like that. But then after feeling the feelings and going through the process, I got to the acceptance that, hey, my higher power had a purpose for this. He had a purpose for this. Nobody got hurt. I was humiliated, and I learned from that. I learned from it. So I accept that. I got to the acceptance of that situation and stopped beating myself up, and I experienced those same feelings about 15, 16 years ago, the exact same feelings. And guess what? I didn't wind up in jail this time. Ooh. Because I learned from before,
And you stayed clean both times too, didn't you?
Clean, yes. Ooh. Yes, clean. Clean. I'm in jail. I'm the oldest thing up in here.
Clean, got 26 years clean.
Yeah, I'm the oldest thing up there, but nothing changed. They still got them thick bologna sandwich. Now I'm in South Carolina now when this happened. And nothing changed, but I was kind of impressed with the fingerprint thing, it was computerized. I said, oh, look at here.
We got some Jetsons going on. The Jetsons going on here. What we got?
And then the funny part about this thing is funny now because I've been able to accept it, but I was really humiliated. But I'm a retired addiction therapist, right? And a client of mine, I work in the behavioral health facility, so they call them patients, right? A patient of mine came in to check. He had to check in, right? I said, OMG. I tried to disappear in the chair and everything. And he came and sat right behind me. And he said, hi, Bally. They call me short for my last name, Ballinger. They call me Bally. Hi, Miss Bally. I said, oh, hi. He had on a blue wristband. I had on a red. Red was higher charge. I said, oh, Lord, I know I'm fired now, But anyway, that all worked out. My superiors, it was IOP, and this was on a Monday. And that Wednesday, he was, in group. But I talked to my superiors, and I had to go through a psych eval and everything and all of that. And it worked out. So I told my superiors about the patient we being locked up together, and they told me, and they said, well, Brenda, you make it a treatment issue. You know, they had to trust in me. They knew that, you know, I was a good worker. They said, you make it a treatment issue.
Ooh, you had that benefit of the doubt too going into it, right? Because you've been doing the right shit for so long.
Yeah. And that
Beautiful.
Wednesday in IOP, I told the group, I said, yeah, you know, Monday I was in jail for 8 hours. I said, I'm gonna tell you all this to let you know, just because you got some clean time don't mean that you're not gonna make some dumb mistakes.
Let's go. Oh my God, that's so amazing.
But the point is, I was in there for 8 hours. I said, but and guess what? I didn't use. So that was the whole thing. So I took the secret away from the patient, because he told me, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell nobody. You know, so I couldn't be in group talking about your secrets, and one of them got a secret on me, you know. And
so powerful. That's so funny.
and that was it. I didn't go in detail. I just told them I was locked up, got out, but didn't use. Stuff will happen. Don't think because you got some time that you're gonna walk water.
Ms. Brenda said right at the beginning of the class, look, before we get started, let me just let something be known right now. What happened to me? Look, before anybody gets jibber-jabbing and whispering in the back of the class, let me just let it be known where I was last night. You know what I mean? Let me just put it out there, because I'm working around recovery, and this is what we do here, right? Like, oh, man, that's so beautiful.
That acceptance, it freed me. Acceptance frees me.
You taught a lot of people a lot that day. Including yourself.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. So what I'm gonna do, like, this is so cool, because I was thinking about this last night, guys. And I actually, it brought me to tears, because between the three of us sitting in here right now, we have right around 90 years of recovery and being in clean time. I want you to know that. And just so everybody is aware, I have a little less than 4 years. So I want y'all to add that up in terms of these two people being here right now, and how special they are to me, and everybody they come in contact with. Both of you two are so special to me in my life. And it's crazy how God, I feel like I choose to say, like, God brought me to these rooms and used these rooms as an avenue to be introduced to him, right? Like, I was running from him before I got here. And I feel like he chose these meetings in these rooms to have that relationship with him. And subsequently, he has put y'all in my life now too, which y'all have been praying. And I thought about this. Both of y'all were praying for me specifically to be in these rooms the first day I picked up my first drug. I want y'all to think about that. That first day, y'all were in these rooms praying for me. That first day, both of you. Right. And that's why, like, when it comes to, like, y'all two or whatever, like I really, really hold y'all to such a high regard, because y'all show me, like, this is what I need to be doing. Like, I'm in the right place. If I want to stay clean the rest of my life, I'm doing the right things right now. I'm in the right place. So I didn't want to get off on a tangent. I just needed both of y'all to know how absolutely amazing and how much I appreciate both of you. And just who you are, because it gives me a lot of hope every day. Miss Brenda, 48 years clean. Come on. Someone to have that is absolutely insane to think about. And so JJ, 38, right? It's just wild. So I'm going to do a brief introduction to the topic real quick, and then we're going to pass it around with some questions. Yep.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute? Because
of course you can. Yes, ma'am.
You know, just based on what you just shared, which is really important. And again, it backs up the therapeutic value of one addict helping another has no parallel. It's like Brenda and I both have simply done what you've done, right? One day at a time for 4 years. And what I love, you bring this up, that we prayed you in here. Now, I'll be honest with you, until you pointed that out to yourself and to the meeting, right, as it occurred to you, and this is what happens when our brain wakes up, our spirit wakes up, we share, these these facts of life is that when you explain that, all of a sudden my prayers at the end of our meeting, that's why we do it. But I'll be
Become
straight
more
up.
powerful.
I'll be straight up. Is like until you said your result is like I'm still not connecting the dot. That this is the result. This is why we pray. Because look at who shows up. Everyone behind us, you know. I mean, do I believe in my prayer or do I not? That's the question. That's what you exposed to me. Do you believe in that we are praying for the addict? Well, believe that the prayers work because whoever shows up for the first, you know,
Yeah.
the fourth or ever what, I don't know, bro. It just, you know, you helped completely connect the dot for me and just put more credit to what we do here. And I just humbly say that it's the power of God, the power of prayer is for real. So
Yeah.
that's all. I appreciate you, having that awakening and sharing it. And somehow I just got a phone call.
You're getting wonky again, JJ. You're getting wonky.
Messed up our
That's right.
whole.
JJ, you're getting. He'll come back in. All right. So.
Okay. And
All
I
right.
wait, baby. I just want to piggyback on what JJ was saying. You know, like we would pray, like we would pray. You know, you up in here, but look at what you are doing for us today. You are help keeping us here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I let you know that hey, I'm 77. Came in at 29 and I'm 77. And Andrew, since we've met, you have me moving, baby. I ain't sitting still. You know, I'm all over the place. Now, podcast and no telling what you have me doing next. I love it.
It's so beautiful. You say that all the time too. You say, you keep me young, and it's like one of those things where y'all keep me grounded in my spiritual principles and knowing that I gotta stay, righteous and steadfast, and then I keep y'all young, right?
That's
so
right.
it works. This thing
That's
works.
right.
It's how this thing works.
That's right. Both ways. That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
So,
the
so I'm going to introduce the topic real quick. So, acceptance and humility. Wow. I love both of these topics. I heard that humility is an ideal state for an addict. I think it says that somewhere in our literature somewhere. But acceptance, before I got here, acceptance to me was weakness. As I thought about it, the term acceptance, accepting other people's viewpoints, things like that, was a term of weakness for me. And I didn't accept really responsibility for anything I was doing before I got here, right? And being able to stop using. You straight, Mr. JJ? You good?
No. I don't know, bro. I just lost your volume.
Well, I love you. You'll get it figured out. So, humility. Before I got here, I confused humility with humiliation. Brenda, you hit on that a little, really quick too. I felt, humility felt like I was being less than, like I was bowing down almost in a way. And then I wore my ego like armor, almost. Ego was a survival tactic for me, and I almost didn't even know that that's what it was doing before I got here. So to be humble, right, it requires honesty. And I was not capable of honesty before I got here, Miss Brenda. I was not capable of it. Humility for me means truth, right? I mean, seeing myself clearly. And I didn't want clarity until y'all showed me the way, right? Until you, A, prayed me in here, and then B, said, look, let us love you to learn how to love yourself. All those cliche things we talk about. But that was my lifeline. That was my lifeline that kept me here. All those cliche sayings that I live by now. And so roundabout to today, like acceptance means acknowledging reality, like without running away from it. For me, I've got to accept reality as it is. I accept my past. I'm fully aware what I did to get here, right? And I accept my disease, and I accept that my disease isn't going anywhere, right? I'm gonna we're not doing anything about it, but I don't want to die because of the disease, JJ. I want to die with it. That's a big difference with dying because of this disease and dying with the disease. Because you know, we can be better. Like the lie is dead. Like we do recover, guys. I see it happening every single day, but this disease does kill people every day too. You know, so acceptance for me today gives me clarity. When I accept my disease like for what it is, like I stay vigilant because I know I'm just one bad decision away from a face tattoo, right? Winding up in jail. And you know, you never know. You know, one thing leads to the next, right? And it's not about me waking up and wanting to use drugs every day, but my behaviors. You know, it's about my behaviors that will lead me back into that realm of using might be an option. And so humility, being able to be humble, and know that I don't have all the answers. And you know, but I do have a direct connection to the one who does, right? That's what I always come back to is like I have a very, very good communication line with the one who does have all those answers. And I'm becoming more and more comfortable with it as I come to these meetings and as I hear y'all share and as I listen and I accept what's going on here, like I get more and more comfortable with who I am as an addict. The fact that, you know, this is the only disease that has us absolutely flat out convinced that we don't have it. As an addict, this is the only disease that will have us convinced we don't have it. But on top of that, it is the only disease, Miss Brenda, that we can talk ourselves out of. Okay, this is the only disease we can talk ourselves out of. We don't need drugs to get off drugs. We need connection, community, you know, service with each other, you know, being serviceable to other people. And so
Please call your mom and tell her
I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute you, JJ. Oh, I can't mute him because I'm not host. You're good. All right. So yeah. What was I saying? Humility, being humble, knowing I don't have all the answers. That just messed me up. I do know that this is a never ending process, that I will never have this thing figured out. And as soon as I do, I've got a problem. Yes. Right. And so, you know, serenity for me comes when we trade expectations for acceptance. I don't know if you've heard that. Have you heard that, Brenda?
Yeah.
Serenity comes when we trade expectations for acceptance, right? And that's what we're talking about today. Acceptance.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier. So what I'm going to do, a little bit choppy on the intro. I'm going to start the question. So I'm going to ask JJ, and then I'm going to ask you, Miss Brenda, and then I'll answer the question. We'll go around like that, and then we'll have JJ ask you once we get done with the first question. Y'all ready?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hey, forgive me as well for the.
You're good. You're good. If you ever need to shout or anything like that, just try to mute yourself next time.
No, I thought okay. I got it.
I love you. I love you. I'm just not host because Milan has to have the recording thing, so I can't mute anybody or do any of the stuff. So here we go. JJ, how does a lack of acceptance keep you sick how did your lack of acceptance keep you sick in addiction? Tell us about that. He's frozen up. JJ, you killing me today, buddy. Brenda, I'm going to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
How does a lack of acceptance keep you sick in addiction? How did a lack of acceptance keep you sick in your addiction?
I know.
JJ, we got to do something. We got to take you off video or something. We can't keep doing this the whole time, buddy. I love you to death, but it's messing the whole thing up. You probably don't even hear what I'm saying right now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Brenda.
Yeah, it kept me the lack of acceptance kept me sick because it kept me lying to myself that nothing was wrong. You know, like you were saying, it kept me the lack of acceptance kept me thinking that I was in charge and that I could fix this thing. If only they had not had the Vietnam War. If only, and I'm not a veteran, never been in the service, but the Vietnam War was one of my problems. And if only people would leave me alone, if only they would understand, I'd be all right. I can do this thing. I can do this thing, because I do not have a problem. I mean, this is life, and when I die, using it no problem for me. And when I die, just put my drugs in the coffin. Just put my drugs in the coffin because, but I don't have no problem. If I get as bad as Sally, then I might look at it, but it just kept me sick. It just kept me stuck in denial. The lack of acceptance just kept me stuck in denial and kept me lying to myself until I really bottomed out and my higher power pulled me out of that hell.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. So I'm gonna answer this. So what is what is that? What was my question here?
Lack of acceptance.
Yes, what is my lack of acceptance? How does my lack of acceptance keep me sick today? That's a great question. So my lack of acceptance, I fought everything. I fought everything coming in here, and I tried to really complicate my way out. And I think a lot of us try to do that, Miss Brenda. We try to complicate our way out any way we can while we're in here instead of identifying our way in. That's what we talk about, identifying our way in and not complicating our way out. And that seems, to talk about it is easy, but to really do that is tough because I felt like I didn't use enough. Then I went through this time where like I thought I used too much. And that was my way to like complicate my way out. Right. And it just takes one little thing to get us off track. Right. As an addict, like I will run with anything that happens that's going to get me to the point where like using might be an option. Right. And before recovery, I did not accept anything, my emotions, myself as a human being, my consequences, my responsibilities. I wasn't accepting any truth. And I definitely wasn't accepting my disease. And so every time I refused to accept something, the only escape I knew was to use, right? My lack of acceptance became like that fuel for my addiction. That lack of acceptance was the thing that was putting the fuel on that fire. And I didn't even know it, because I'm not living by anything spiritually. I'm running from God. I feel like I have nothing to offer him. And if he does catch up to me, he's going to take the couple things that I do have. Right. So why am I going to try to have a relationship with him when I'm doing all the wrong stuff? I'm a drug addict. I got nothing to offer him or anybody. Right. And so I didn't even accept that I had a disease, let alone that I could do anything about it. And so every uncomfortable emotion was like a threat.
Yeah.
Fear, shame, sadness, anger, loneliness, guilt. I couldn't sit with any of them. I couldn't tolerate being uncomfortable. Right. I wasn't ready I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't accept that feelings were just normal and that they're temporary. Right. Instead, every emotion was like an emergency. You remember that? Remember that feeling where it's like everything's like let's burn the house down.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like, so I used to avoid them, to avoid my emotions. And so that I could stay in that familiar chaos. Like peace is so unfamiliar to us when we get here, Brenda. We're like, what is that peace? That peace is, that's scary. That peace, we don't know what peace is, man. When things are peaceful, we're just waiting for the ball to drop.
That's right.
Just wait. If things are peaceful, it's like, oh shit, what's up? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? You know the ball's about to drop, right? And so, my lack of acceptance, kept me so sick, man, because I was constantly running from my own emotional reality, right? I was running from that truth. I never learned how to cope with anything. The only thing I'd do I would just numb it. I would numb it out. I would numb it out every time. And then that got to be the easy way to do things, right? And it's crazy because we'll get arrested, we'll get thrown in jail, we'll get all this other stuff, and we still use. Because that's what we do, right? That's what we do.
We know.
That's what we do. And then it's beautiful though, because when we come in here, Miss Brenda, we put down the drugs, we realized that the drugs were not the problem.
Right, exactly.
And on top of that, you want to add a layer to that. The drugs were the freaking solution to our problem.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that was our solution. You want to talk about it being the problem. That was our solution to our disease. Like that's our disease thinking, our that self-centeredness that we have, that which is at the core of our disease, right?
Yeah.
And so it's wild when we can and where do we learn all this stuff, Miss Brenda? We read this literature, right? We read these books.
Yep.
You know, my sponsor says this literature is God's love letters to addicts.
Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm.
And every time I have a problem that I can't handle or something about myself, we find it in the literature somewhere.
That's right.
The answers are there.
It's there. That's right.
It's there.
Mm-hmm.
It blows my mind, Miss Brenda, the amount of people who come into a 12-step fellowship and don't work the 12 steps of that 12-step fellowship. It's wild to me. And B, read the books. At least read the book, the one. It's not long. Like, you're not going to be doing it for years. It's not like an encyclopedia. We don't have 7,000 books you got to read.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
You know,
I don't even like reading.
They used to say, Andrew, about the steps, right? They say, when you work those steps, if you work those steps, you're going to change and get better in spite of yourself. In spite of, if you work them steps, you're going to get better whether you want to or not.
No doubt. Where you at, JJ? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, that's better. That's much better. I think we might want to keep your video off. I can hear you perfect now.
Yeah, shut it off.
So let's do that. I'm going to ask you that question. Okay. How did a lack of acceptance keep you sick in your addiction?
Well, as I'm listening to you guys, I had no idea what my problem was. Like, I kept using the solution no matter what. Like you said, my solution was drugs and alcohol. That was the only solution that I knew to my problems, which really were self-centered fear. Like, what the freak is going on? Brenda mentioned Vietnam, and the draft was still on. That was a serious effect on me as a 17-year-old young man, and I knew people that had come back from Nam. I mean, it was terrifying, man. I had fear of that. And in fact, I believe that was the real reason that I started using drugs, although I'd been drinking before that. But, the response to the fears of life, of how to deal with it. And my tools and my solution was drugs and alcohol. I mean, it would give me the power, I thought, to leap tall buildings or to figure out a problem. And I'd do enough drugs, I'd run through that wall as opposed to go around it, it just, and then, and then that whole lifestyle became a part of my coping with life, how to make a living. And I always had a straight gig, but I always, made money off drugs, which just as much to support, my habit, which was to make sure I had enough of the solution around, But, things kept getting worse. And my self-centered running, I made a baby, got married, and ran from that because I was really inside, and I didn't know any of this. I had not a freaking clue until recovery, So the first meeting that I sat in, when you talk about acceptance, I was freaking overwhelmed by, there was a piece, like I heard hope. I was high that day, in this meeting, that there was 100 alcoholic addicts in that room listening to this woman share her story. She was 5 years clean. And I didn't know what my problem was. All I knew was that my solutions, they weren't working. They did for a while, I was different periods, I remember thinking as a young man, you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. So there, it's all about the great I am, got to have a plan. Got to have a hustle, got to have some sort of line on what, how to get from A to B. And the drugs and alcohol begin to feed that, and Lord, they worked for a while, but then ultimately I'm dying. And I don't know what the problem is. And I sat in that meeting and I realized I'm an alcohol addict, you know. It was a predecessor fellowship, but that woman talked about the chemicals that she did. She told me about the blues. She told me about the fear that she had. She told me about the good times. She told me about me, and she said her problem was she was an alcohol addict, and there was a program, right? And so when we talk about acceptance, I know that there was a she gave me hope that life was worth living because you know, I've always believed in life. I've never thought about killing myself in a rational decision way, right? I was just chasing the solution to the bitter end. I mean, I would have, I could have run myself into a bridge abutment accidentally, if you know what I mean. I didn't realize, again, my awareness that I was committing suicide and didn't even fucking know it. I
Yeah.
just didn't even know it. And that meeting really just drew me up and told me what the problem was and that there was a solution. And did I buy in? Is that my clean date? No, no, I used for another week, but I kept going, and again, God's so amazing because, God used a pretty woman to get me in that meeting. I'd have followed her anywhere, and she said, you want to go to a meeting? She had been 6 months sober, clean and sober. And so it got me to hear the message that saved my life. I called her in my first 10 years, every anniversary to thank her, you know she 13 stepped me in, right? And it's like we can criticize that and ever what, nothing happens in God's world by mistake. I mean, it's just what do we do with that? Do I accept it or do I not? Um, so from that meeting, I heard enough and I felt a peace, because really that's why I started doing drugs was to come, you know, to be at peace with the chaos of life. Brenda, shit was going crazy then, man. Civil rights movement was just, torching it up. The women's lib
Mm-hmm.
was happening. Vietnam's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
It was just insane, and how do you make sense of all that? Where you find a little bit of peace,
Mm-hmm.
get a bottle of wine and a bag of reef, and then it just graduates and graduates, you
Yep.
know.
Never
And
get some LSD and go to Cali.
oh my God, it was all there,
Get
man.
spiritual, baby. Woohoo!
That's right. As the solution. And that's, it was a pursuit of peace and happiness and some truly, and it was about connection. It begun about connection, but the disease of addiction is all about separating us from anything that is meaningful. You know, it's a cunning enemy of life, our literature makes clear. And that's just burnt into my heart because the vigilance that you talked about, it's such a critical word, all along the watchtower, man. I feel like, and again, nothing happens with you. Pay attention. And that old timer that told me about a 12-step dance, do that dance. He said, learn the steps so you can do that dance. He said that, man. And I didn't get what he was talking about. Truly, it was 20 years later. I'm going, hey, I remember what Richie said, man. I'm in the dance. It's like I'm free. It's like I got a
Yeah.
solution that happens by itself because I'm living this. Like Brenda said, if you learn the steps, they will change you. You'll see how they work. When you ask a question, what are we talking about powerlessness? What are we talking about unmanageability? See, I was asking Rich a question about step when he explained it, and then he told me, he said, there will be a day. Like, I mean, I wasn't bashful about asking questions, how do I get high? How do I do what I need to do, right? So it's the same way. And self-centered fear is going to keep an addict from asking for help, you
Yeah.
know. And I'm blessed in the fact that when I heard that message in the first meeting, I relapsed within, well, heck, it took me a month. Paula gave me a 30-day coin, like as inspiration for me to keep at 30 days, right? And I
Okay.
didn't make it. I made it almost, but then I didn't make it,
No fronts.
No fronts. No, that's right. But she was doing her best to encourage me and inspire me,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing. And there was 3,000 miles separated us. I had met her out there on the West Coast, and I had come back home. But to move on in the acceptance of the solution. I've had my last clean date's not my only one. I think I tried to quit a lot of times in my active addiction. I'd lay this down, I'd lay that down. I tried to quit and couldn't. So I like to think I had a certain amount of relapses before I got here, right? I've had three clean dates. March 15th, 1988 is my last clean date, and I pray. And there is no guarantee. I've seen it. We got a beautiful sister in Meaning Makers Fellowship, in the NA Fellowship that is strong. She's beautiful. She worked on 3 years after being here for 36 years or however many, right?
32. Yeah.
32, yeah. So it's like, and I remember, coming up on 5 or 10 years, I would hear again, oh, that's the other thing. Rich told me along with the 12-step dance, he said, pay attention. Pay attention because it's in the moments. Like God's here all the time, every moment. So is the lower power. And I'm thinking, if there's a higher power, and I keep trying to work on my power, that's my self-will, my power. That's what got me here, was my power. In the fourth step, it asked me, why did I have these fears? And the answer to the question wasn't because self-reliance failed me.
Mm-hmm.
Self-will. Like I need a higher power. And I felt it that very first meeting, and I was high. I felt it. The love. Heard in another meeting, that our unity is God's expression of universal love.
Mm-hmm.
And one addict's love for another, man, is that so often the power and the strength that gets us there. So, I've had to accept, that this is where the answer was. I relapsed, but this will F up your using like real bad.
Yeah.
You
We'll
know,
fuck up your high bad. We'll
it
fuck up your
will,
get
so
a head
Yeah.
full of
I
NA,
mean,
go back out and use. Yeah. Mess your
I'm
high up.
a feel good junkie, so I had to come back here. I want to feel better. And the truth is, this is better. This piece,
Absolutely.
So number
Absolutely.
one, I just have to not use, but I've observed, just abstinence and that, you don't get high that way. You
Nope.
don't have, there's no solution to just be abstinent, from the addiction. It's like, these spiritual bags of acceptance and humility, you know, humility keeps me, if, and I love the definition, it keeps me right sized. I don't think too much of myself or don't think too little of myself. And for me, that's an addict in her strive for power and manageability, right? Is that I either have to puff up like a freaking blowfish, right? And be somebody, right? Operating on my power, or I've already sold myself out and say, you're a piece of shit. You don't stand a chance anyway, right? And the humility that I am asked to learn about means to accept me the way I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
It's not
the way God made me.
it's not thinking less of myself, it's thinking of myself less.
Yes. And I have to add to that. So what else? Think of myself less, but I got to think of the higher power, like God's purpose for me here. Like there is purpose, and I got to ask for the power and for the direction. Like, what is my next move? You know, think of myself less. What does that mean? Think of Andrew, think of Brenda, think of how can I be of service? Think how can I be creative and productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in
And
that
you,
is the feel good.
sorry,
Go
sorry,
go
brother.
ahead,
I was
bro.
gonna say you touched on the steps. 'Cause I want to get to your question too. I don't want to get too far off on this first one. But you touched on the steps because y'all both. That's how we stay clean. What I don't know if you've heard this, Brenda. What do steps stand for? STEPS. Solutions to every problem solved. You heard that?
Mm-hmm. I think I probably did. I can't remember.
And if you're not using the steps, you're nuts. You're NUTS,
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah,
using
yeah,
the steps.
yeah,
So
yeah.
my new one for steps is spiritual tools empowering progress. You like that?
Yeah.
Ooh, come on. Okay, JJ, you got a question? We're gonna have you ask the question to Brenda and then me, and then we'll have you answer it.
Okay.
Go ahead and ask Miss Brenda.
Well, I have a question that I don't know if it's repetitive or not, but I'm gonna ask. It's the only one I have written down, and it is: what is the importance of humility to acceptance?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, without me being humble, I'm not going to get to the acceptance because I like we just finished talking, when I'm not humble, it's all about me. I'm in charge. I'm in charge and I don't have to accept anything, because actually I'm dictating. You know what I'm saying? So when I can think of myself less. And it was this book that I read, and I remember the very first sentence in the paragraph. The very first sentence is, "It's not about you." And it was like, whoa. It was like, whoa, it's not about you. And see, and all my life, well, not all my life, but I'm thinking it's about me and that I'm it, So when I had, without the humility, I'm the higher power, and with the humility, I was able to take off my God suit and begin to have a higher power that I practice, turning my will over to after I took off the God suit. But I had to humble myself to get to the acceptance that I was not God. It was like, whoa. It was, well, I knew I wasn't God, but the way that I thought of myself as God, having the power that he had, and that was one of the things too that kept me messed up, because thinking I had the power and having power and couldn't do nothing with it, it was like, oh wow, this is really messed up here. You got the power, but you can't do nothing.
Stuck.
You can't do nothing. You really a failure,
Stuck.
So yes, so that's how the humility, got me to and keeps me to the acceptance, to the acceptance in anything, and that's how I'm able today to be happy, joyous, and free, because I can accept things, I can accept. I mean, it's just that serenity prayer. I just can accept today, but I can't do it if I'm not humble. If I'm not humble, I'm it. I'm the higher power.
That's
So
right. That's right. So we can restart that day at any time with that serenity prayer, right? We can
That's
regroup
right.
and restart that day at any time. So important. So important. I'll take that question, Mr. JJ, if you don't mind.
What what is the importance of humility to finding acceptance?
It's a beautiful question. I like how you asked it. Humility starts off with honesty for me. It's about being honest with myself first. I've got to look at my strengths, right, and my weaknesses without denial in there. We talked about denial a lot at the beginning. Don't even notice I am lying, right?
Yeah.
Denial. We are wrapped up in some denial when we got here. So it's about accepting my strengths and weaknesses, not having that layer of denial in there, and seeing myself more accurately, right? Like it's not thinking of myself less, but just knowing and being accurate with who I am, right? Like accepting who I am, right? Humility means acknowledging that I need help too. Right. And that's a big thing. It was tough for me to ask for help. My ego, that pride, right? Ego, edging God out. What does pride stand for? One of the primary reasons I die early. That pride and ego is thick early, right? And so humility allows me to learn. I no longer need to pretend that I know everything at that point, right? I stay teachable. I listen. I watch. I remain open. I'm always listening, always watching, because recovery only works when I'm willing to learn.
That's right.
And, humility has a way of turning into gratitude to me, right? I can't be humble and ungrateful at the same time. Humility reminds me of what I've been given, where I came from, and it keeps my ego in check, and, humility gives me like connection and compassion. I see myself in newcomers, right? I see myself in those suffering addicts, right? I feel, I see my truth. I see my truth in what I can be in y'all, right? When I see y'all 30, 40 years clean coming on here, talking about what you're going through, staying clean, going to jail clean, coming out, owning your class, going to your class next day and jumping on top of it, using it in recovery and rolling right through that shit. Like that is right there shows me, where I need to be, like that I am doing the right thing. And it keeps me in check, knowing that I am in the right place. I'm not doing this for nothing. Right. I'm here for a reason. And so when it brings it into acceptance, that's what acceptance will keep me grounded as my life changes, right? As my life, and I'm going through these things in my life, acceptance is going to keep me grounded to that humility. And keep me right sized, right? Like I've got to understand who I am in the situation every time. And acceptance will guide me spiritually. Acceptance guides my spiritual growth. It's kind of how I think about it. To grow spiritually, I have to accept new things. I've got to accept your side of the street. I accept, meet you where you're at, right? I heard this a long time ago, Miss Brenda, that the most spiritual person in the room is the one who can be most honest with how unspiritual they can be.
Yeah.
Think about that. It's about meeting somebody where they're at.
Right.
Like you have whatever you have for your higher power. I have whatever mine, and it's perfect. And let's do this thing together and stay clean together. Because we're stronger in numbers. An addict alone is in terrible, terrible company.
Ooh, yes.
Terrible company, man. Terrible company. It's crazy because you were hitting on this earlier, JJ, where you were talking about how when we get into using drugs, it's all about the spirituality and the connection, right? When we're using, and then something happens.
Yeah.
And then something happens, right? So then we have this beautiful program. We have this beautiful program where we're taking the substance out. But we're still working towards what? Connection, spirituality, growth, like going to meet, not meeting up in Santa Barbara to do peyote, right? We're meeting at Santa Barbara to go to a convention together and not use, right? And to just share our experience, strength, and hope and how we got to that point. And it's just a beautiful thing because we don't ask for $1 at the door here. We're not paying to be here, and so I can go anywhere in the world and feel at home. Home is not a place, it's a feeling. I can go anywhere in the world and feel at home. Get prayed into a room, get prayed out of a room, stay clean while I'm doing it, and get all the hope and love in between that I need.
That's right. That's right.
Without a quarter in my pocket, Miss Brenda.
That's right. That's right.
You tell me.
I had a church member, right, who said to me, Brenda, you have been delivered. Why are you still going to the meetings? I said, because God did not deliver me just for me.
Yeah.
He delivered me. He got a purpose for me, to serve his people. I said, and just like people was there waiting, praying me up in here, I'm here to help others. And then guess what I asked her? I said, you are saved. Why are you still going to church?
Get it,
right.
I love that. What'd she say?
She couldn't do nothing but laugh. She said, I see.
Hit him with the mic drop. Yeah. She said the mic drop, JJ. She said mic drop.
That's right. No, that's right.
JJ, you want to answer that question, young man?
Oh, mercy. What is the importance of humility to finding acceptance? And there's so much for us to learn. In order to find that humility, I have to be honest. I do. Because my lack of humility, is grounded in dishonesty. I'm believing something that is not true. And it's really, I need a relationship with a higher power to really keep me humble, because I can't make up, if I feel like I'm not, I'm not worth it, that's what I used to do drugs for. I'll make up some shit, right? It's not real, because when I'm operating on my own will, I need the guidance and direction. My higher power tells me, no, you are okay because I made you okay. So move forward with confidence and faith, right? Um, I, there's times where, I've gone the other way, and puffed up like a blowfish because I thought, I've got to be in control. And what I have to do is feel God's power and move forward in faith. This is what I continue to learn. And when I'm uncomfortable, I'm realizing I'm operating. That's again back to that question. Why did I have fear? Why are you uncomfortable? Well, it's because I'm relying on myself and not the higher power, not the unity of our experience, that I don't have to act out. If I'm finding it difficult to accept a person, place, or thing, a situation as it is, you know, it's not meeting up to an expectation of mine. And my expectation, is often grounded, I'm expecting more of you than I should. Um, um, I'm expecting more of a situation. I've recently gone through this experience of being denied going into the federal joint, right? And I really had to.
Crazy. It's wild. Do you want to tell that story real quick on here? Just real quick?
Yeah. Well, I've really had to. I was not humiliated. Well, see,
I'm not laughing. It's just kind of funny. It's just a little.
No, I love you. Well, it is what it is, but it pissed me off, man. Brenda, and I don't know if you were on the meeting, but I've spent a decade or more going to our regional jail in West Virginia, and I've been cleared, so here just recently, our H&I in Narcotics Anonymous in Maryland, we've been going into the state prison, and we've been trying to get into the federal joint, and so we've had some good luck as a PR dude, I guess, doing my job, Well, we had an opportunity to go in, and um, Marvin and I both passed the security clearance. He's the one that's been going into the
You've
regional
been going
debt
into jails forever, haven't you? You've been going to jails for a while doing this.
for a long time. Yeah, in West Virginia for AA. It was 10 or 12 years,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 12 to 15.
Doing
It
God's
all,
work. Yep.
I believe in our message, man. It's like it's life saving. It's undeniable, and so it's with that desire. Um, we put this effort into going in, and uh, so Brenda, we went through the initial background check and cleared, and um, then we had just completed a 3-hour indoctrination do's and don'ts, which I've been through, in West Virginia. But, went through that. Everything's very cool. Everyone's excited. Marvin's got, percolating on 6 years. He's going to pick up his 6-year medallion here in another month. And we're just stoked, because the NA message is going to go in because they want it in to the federal joint as well. Like there was a request that, God's been moving. And so we left that indoctrination and I'm taking Marvin home. And I had a question that I called one of the officers that's our liaison. Um, and I left my question on her answering machine and then dropped Marvin off. And then that's when we went out of town for a week. It took a couple weeks, we had 2 letters we had to send in. It was the final thing. And I'm waiting for my confirmation call. Right. And last week, um, yeah, 2 Mondays
Like
ago,
nothing but a formality. Nothing but a formality now. We're just
just a
waiting on it.
formality, man. And we're excited. I'm excited. Marvin been going in by himself, so he's just stoked to have a partner. And so I get this call. Andrew, it was the morning of my birthday, man. It was no birthday call. Officer Simmons on the phone, and he said, Jim, and this guy loves me, likes me. I like him. He's a good dude. He's excited that we're going to do something right. And he goes, hey, I got to tell you, man. He said, you can't go in.
Ooh,
I said, what?
ooh.
What's the trouble with? And he said, well, you left that message for Haley Meekins. And I probably shouldn't have said her name. That was a fake name. I just made it up. I'm keeping her anonymity.
Just roll through it.
So he said that when you hung up, you didn't hang up.
Ooh.
My my phone didn't hang up, and
Listen to this, Brenda. It's
I
funny.
turned to Marvin because I'm tripping out thinking about, we're going to take the message in this federal joint. And I said to Marvin, I said, man, it's beautiful and ironic because I said, it's 40 years ago. I'm making up keister packages to do reefer drops
His phone was still on.
around the federal, FCI Ashland, because my old partner was doing his second bit in prison. And I'm just telling Marvin that story, and
On the
here
lady's voicemail.
and here Simmons is repeating it back. He said that she took it to her supervisor, took it to the warden, took it to the
The whole
regional
states, the
freaking
whole federal judge is listening in on your
because
voicemail.
they ran the whole thing through, and they said they got a zero tolerance policy on that kind of behavior. They can't let me in based on this
So
shit from
funny.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
But like so for real, I'm angry.
Acceptance.
Yeah,
Ooh.
and humility. I mean,
Oh
both
yeah,
these things. Okay, so
big
37
time.
years, 8 months, and 10 days or
Let's go.
whatever. It's like I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Brenda, don't they know who I am?
Exactly.
Right?
uh,
And I'm talking
you
with
know who
I'm
they're dealing
talking.
with right now?
And it took me a week of conversations because again, we got to talk about shit. If I just bottled up and came home, and stewed on that shit, I could have gone down to Sparky's and had me a freaking cold one. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like, what's my solution? Well, I was fucking angry. Pardon my language, but I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
And I
You
was
came on a
talking to
meeting and
somebody.
talked about it a couple times.
Well, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
did. And I said to someone, if I was 5 years clean, I would understand, but with this time, you would think and the person looked at me and said, well, wait a minute. Are you saying that your 37 years is more important than my 5 years? And I had to think, it
Ooh,
hit me like a day later.
yeah.
I kept thinking about that. It's like, man, you arrogant prick. Like we live a one day at a time program. The newcomer walking in the door going to save my life just as much, as Brenda might, depending on what they say. So it really was, it took me a few days to get right sized. And again, God's got to be in this picture because the resolution for me, look, I got caught. There's rules, and I done broke the rule. And it almost sounded like they could have charged me for that shit. And I mean, I had to ask him that question because he said something, but he didn't change the subject because that would have been insane. But at any rate, God's got a different plan. I have to accept that. Where does God want to use me? Like all of a sudden, I'm feeling my value because I'm feeling like a turd ball when I'm stuck in that don't they know who I am, right? I mean, really, because that's what an arrogant thing, but that's where my pain was. And here's where our disease will use, because I could talk to somebody else and convince them that the BOP is totally wrong, that based upon like that qualifies me even more because I understand the system and whatever. But the truth is that I've got to accept the fact that they've got their rules. They can't make an exception. It's a uh, yeah, a no fault policy that they've got to follow. And so it doesn't mean I pull out of the effort. What it means is, and I shared this in an in-person meeting in our area because I need to share this. I can't go in, guys. What are we going to do as a fellowship? Someone got to bridge the gap. Someone has to step up. I'm not all that. There's anyone in this room can go into this joint and help carry the message. Have an
Yeah.
experience that will expand. Your freaking life experience. Because
They weren't ready for if JJ wasn't going to get accepted.
no. And again, right? I mean, they'd all like get up in arms and go, J,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's like, no, boys, that's just not what we do. Like the message will get in, and there's a greater message behind this. For me to just calm down about it, watch watch my mouth. I mean, how important was it to tell that story? I don't know, to keep it on
I,
topic,
I
to
think it was
keep,
very important.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just want to do this because I want to wrap this thing up in a pretty little bow. This is my first time actually doing the actual hosting, and I just want to wrap this thing up in a very, very pretty little bow. We have about 15 minutes left, so we're gonna do like a 5 minutes each round. So you had said you have a question for us, right, Miss Brenda?
Yeah, I
And
have
then,
one.
so what we're gonna do is you're gonna ask JJ, and then I'm gonna put 5 minutes on the clock, and then you're gonna ask me, and then you're gonna answer it, and that'll wind us down to the end of this thing because Milan's gonna stop recording at 45 after. So we'll have a timer for each of our answers on this one to bring us home on a nice, good ending. Is that cool? Cool
love
with
you,
Okay.
everybody?
love you guys.
All right, Brenda,
Mm-hmm.
if you will ask Mr. JJ.
Okay, JJ, how has humility changed your life? Changed your life.
Thank you for the question, Brenda, and I love you. I'm so glad that we've done this today.
Yeah.
Humility, truly has brought peace to my life.
Mm.
It's a place that I don't have to either strive to be on top of the heap, or climb out from underneath it. It's like, and that seems like what my active addiction and at times my recovery, can be, I guess, that most recent struggle. So, humility truly brings me into connection with God as I understand Him.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, for real, it's where the power is. And, to relax in that and realize that I don't have to struggle, that my power rests in that connection and that, He's empowered me and given me purpose. Uh, and oftentimes the lack of humility, I confuse my purpose, or I miss the purpose. Like there's a different purpose for me than going in the joint. And what is that? My fear would say, well, I don't know. I know what's familiar. So humility gives me, I suspect, courage as well, because I feel that courage instead of fear. And again, it's because of the power of God in my life and my reliance on that relationship. So, yeah, and I believe that Andrew said, that the easing God out,
Yeah.
that's what my self will do, and it's a constant battle, of a battle of self-will versus God's will, a higher power versus, what I want to be able to manage and control things, when God's already in control, and accepting that is major. And I think as I was doing some reading before a meeting, that the most important part of acceptance to me is accepting the gift of being able to rely on a power that's there all the time.
Mm.
And it's so difficult to accept that. Fear says it's not really there. But yes, it is. It
Yeah.
is. Every time I call upon it, it's there. So the acceptance of good things, accepting the ugliness of my disease, seems like what we come in here and I remember in my early recovery, I can't just be accepting I'm a piece of shit. And it came, what it's not. Accept the fact that your freaking zipper's up. You got two socks that match, you know, your children know where you are. Like there's so many good things.
You're not living under a bridge.
I'm not living under a bridge, and in time I was able to live in a place that had a functional commode, and that's part of my story. But the bottom line is the ability to accept and rely upon God in my life. I think that is and without humility, we've already said it. I'm playing God. And why would I do that? Because I'm missing all the power, all the direction, all the peace, that life has to offer. And really, as a result of these steps, I've had a spiritual awakening that allows me to return to that place. And like that first reading says, we return to it oftentimes humbled, right? A little bit uncomfortable, but it's a gift. And to be grateful for what I've got today. And the fact that I didn't use, and I've got a DOC.
What is it? What's that new DOC?
It's called a drug of choice, Brenda.
Ooh.
We got choices today. That's the drug. It is
That's our
choice.
new DOC.
I love you guys. I'm gonna keep coming back.
I love
Love
you
you
so
too,
much, JJ.
JJ.
And
That
Miss
was good.
Brenda, I'm going to have you answer your question. So you get 5 minutes on your question, and then I'll
Okay.
kind of bring it home to end it.
Okay, it was pretty much what JJ said. Humility keeps me lined up with God. It keeps me bowing to that higher power. And as long as I'm bowing to that higher power, I know it ain't me. And it just helps me to live happy, joyous, and free. Not that nothing don't happen in my life, not that mishaps don't happen, not that, uncomfortability don't happen, but being happy, joyous, and free, it doesn't mess with my spirit. I'm able to feel the feelings and get on to the acceptance and get on past it, and for me, without being humble, I can be honest, open-minded, willing, none of that if I think I'm God and stuff like that. So if I'm not humble, I can't practice any of the other spiritual principles. I cannot live spiritually if I'm not humble. So I have to practice humility, have to practice it, and keep practicing it until it becomes like second nature. Do sometimes, from time to time, I want to get in the driver's seat, but I hurry up and get my butt back in the back. Hurry up, because I see the crash coming, I hurry up and turn it back over, So I have to stay humble. It keeps me connected to God. That's it for me.
I love you so much, Brenda. I love you so much. All right, so I'll bring that home. We start this clock over, and then we'll have a couple minutes to end it out. All right, cool. So the humility piece, right? Humility will guide me and keep me connected to my program going forward, right? It keeps me teachable. It reminds me like I'm not gonna ever have this thing figured out, man. As soon as I have this thing figured out, or as soon as I think I have this thing licked, I'm done. As soon as as soon as I'm too rigid to not go to a Zoom meeting because I'm only used to going to in-person meetings, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Right. Like as soon as, we got Miss Brenda, 48 years clean. Like she pivoted, right? She was able to get on Zoom. Now she's got people all over the world that she's connected to. Right. Right. We like COVID. Yeah, it sucked, but like we are able to recover anywhere in the world. Like I've got a sponsor that I've never met, but I'm more close to that man than anybody. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we do as addicts is we have gotten over that hump, right? Like we want to survive, right? And God has put us in a position to reroute and still continue to get better, right? And as time goes on, like we're gonna have to adapt to what's going on, technology, the lack thereof, whatever it is, we have, because staying clean must come first. Mm-hmm. Nothing else happens if we don't stay clean. We talked about this. We don't have a choice. Our choices are null and void as soon as we pick up that first drug. We talk about a conscious connection to that God of our understanding. It's done. It's completely canceled out as soon as you pick up a drug, man. It's the end. It's everything we're trying to work for is this humility, this acceptance, not using, right? We can't. We're so used to putting drugs on an emotion, on that fear, and humility keeps me coming back, keeps me teachable, keeps me grounded in my spiritual foundation, which is love, and humility. You already know, Miss Brenda, love is my jam. Mm-hmm. Love is undefeated, right? Mm-hmm. Like when all else fails, I gotta love somebody. I gotta go be of service to somebody. Get out of my head. And that's what ultimately this whole thing is about, right? We work all these steps to do a lot of self work and all this work on ourselves, and then we turn around to like step 12 and we realize this thing has absolutely nothing to do with us. Mm-hmm. It has nothing to do with us.
You could feel your love, Andrew. You could feel it.
Yeah. And so I come in here. Love and hope are the only two spiritual principles out of all that list that we can actually give to each other. And that's what we do here, right? We love each other back to life, right? Because love is undefeated. It does not lose. It doesn't know how to. Love is incorporated in all the other spiritual principles that we try to incorporate into our life. Mm-hmm. If you can put love into it, I know we're going to be okay, And so humility is also going to help me in how I treat people going forward, my intentions. My intent on being a good person, man, because God's always watching, right? You want to talk about like when people are watching or when somebody's not watching, God's always watching. Mm-hmm. God is always watching. We're not ducking him.
That's right.
We ain't ducking that one, So Being able to come to terms with that is so freeing, right? This surrender process. My ultimate power in this program is being able to surrender. You can talk about all that other stuff you want, but being able to turn that over to him and understand what that's doing for me, it has lightened the load. 40% when I realized what a true surrender was. And it's not just a one-time act.
Right.
So this is a daily thing. Sometimes several times throughout the day, I got to turn this thing over.
That's right.
And so I can step 1, 2, and 3 every decision I make in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I can surrender, identify, and turn it over. Do what I can about it and turn the rest over and keep it moving. Because as soon as I get bogged down, like that's when I start like acting weird, getting out of my character, right? And then what? Using becomes an option.
Yeah.
So every addict here deserves compassion, right? Not judgment. My job is to show up and love, right? Not with ego. Show up with love, man. Love somebody here. Humility keeps my relationships honest and healthy, and it will help me listen instead of dominate every conversation I have like I used to. Because if I wasn't getting my drugs or I wasn't getting over on somebody, I wasn't beating somebody over the head, I felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I felt like I was going backwards. So humility is going to give me unity in all my relationships that I have, right? It's going to give me unity. And so I want to say this. Both of you two are amazing. It's going to get ready to get shut down here in a couple of minutes. But you two, Miss Brenda and JJ, are so special to me. And Brenda, thank you for being here today. This is so amazing. 48 years clean.
Good to be here with you guys.
On your first podcast. We're going to have you back, Miss Brenda. You keep it up. We're going to have you back.
I told you. Hey, JJ, I tell you, I'm following Andrew everywhere. Like I said, God only knows where I'm going to be next.
I told JJ that story. I said, look, I was on the phone with Brenda, and I was telling her about the podcast, and I wanted her to come on, and how you had me tripped up because I thought you were upset with me, and you were like, now, baby, you were like, I want you to know something and understand something right now. You said anything that my baby Andrew's a part of, I have got to be a part of that. You better make sure I'm a part of that. It was so beautiful because I'm like ready to like go. I'm so sorry, Miss Brenda.
He was ready to get scolded. Right?
That was the purpose.
It was
that
perfect.
Was the purpose.
It was perfect. So with that, do you want to say anything to kind of finish this out, Mr. JJ, real quick one on that?
Very quickly, I would just say that as God watches us, if God's watching us, God's not judging nobody. It's just this loving, caring, higher power. Everything that I would want to be. God just waiting me to fall down, pick me up, give me a kiss on the forehead, and pat me on the butt, and keep going. So that's it's just an incredible source of love all the time, and I love you guys. So glad to be here.
Miss Brenda, you want to say something on the way out? You want to say a quick on the way out? You want to say something?
Yeah. Hey, I love you guys. And I'm so glad to be here with you, JJ. And it's so much identification. Man got me here, and we're still together today. But I just love this here. I've always been a daredevil. I'll try anything at one time,
That's right. That's
and
right.
I'm so glad to be here with y'all. Just love you.
This has been such a great time. Again, thank you, JJ. Thank you, Ms. Brenda. We're gonna have to do this again soon. We can all just wave on the way out. But I love you guys. Bye, guys.
All right.
Bye. Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starsick on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.